Video we will look at how to do an Elizabeth question 3. So it is a why is something significant question. It's 12 marks at 12 minutes and 4 separate paragraphs. Now in history we like the rule of 3, so you're going to need to give 3 reasons something is significant. And you must include context, so things going on at the time, throughout. Now, if you look at the box bottom right in blue, I kind of talk you through what significance means in history. Now, a similar word would be importance, but significance is something slightly different. And to assess significance, historians look at 3 things. How much does it affect something? Obviously, if it completely changes something, it's going to be very significant. If it doesn't change a lot, it's not going to be very significant. You also need to look at how many people it affects and how long it affects things for. And obviously, the bigger the number of people or the longer time it affects things for means it is more significant. Now, your structure is nice and straightforward. You will have 1 paragraph for each of your reasons it is significant, and then a final judgment summing up your main points. We have our practice question here. Why was poverty a significant problem for Elizabeth during her reign as Queen? So we'll start by employing our bug method. So we're going to box the command words, which in this case are why and significant problem. Our key feature is poverty, and the only hints we are given is our marks, but we know that we need 3 points for this. In terms of context, there's loads of things you can talk about for poverty. You can talk about the causes of poverty, so rack renting, where the rents kept increasing in price, changes in farming methods, which required less people to do the job, and bad harvests that led to increases in food prices. And there's always a good statistic to throw in when you talk about poverty, that 20 to 30% live in starvation or on the edge of starvation in Elizabethan England. Now again, on my paper, I would always just be doing my quick notes. Sir Mr. Ferguson likes to do them as kind of spider diagram lines. I like to do bullet points. For my first problem, I will talk about vagrancy. My second problem, I will talk about anger, especially from the rich. And for my third problem, I've decided to talk about crime and diseases. Now, it's always best just to go for your gut instinct here, because it's in your brain for a reason.
Poverty was a huge issue in Elizabethan England and led to lots of unrest and laws to prevent vagrancy. Poverty has many causes, including rack renting, where rents kept increasing until they were unaffordable, changes in farming methods which meant many farm labourers lost their jobs as they switched to keeping sheep, and bad harvests which increased food prices. There was an estimated 20 to 30% of people in England living in starvation at the time. The first reason poverty was a significant problem was because of vagrancy. There were many types of vagrants who wandered from place to place looking for work. This led to problems over who should pay for them. People did not want to deal with vagrants from other towns, so they were often whipped back to their place of birth. Of course, this did not solve the problem of vagrancy, so poverty was an issue to Elizabeth because it created divisions and made it hard to keep track of people who may legitimately need help. Furthermore, Elizabeth did not want to be seen as harsh as Edward and Henry, who branded and whipped vagrants. Another reason poverty was a significant issue is the idea of who should pay. Elizabeth established many poor laws which, from 1572, made paying poor tax compulsory. This was money paid by the rich to help the poor in their local area. However, as it was the rich who supported Elizabeth by paying her taxes and enforcing her laws, she had to be careful not to annoy people too much with this tax, as they could rebel against her. A final reason poverty was a significant threat is the belief that they caused crime and diseases to increase. These could be well-founded accusations, as there was no system of government help, so crime likely would have increased as poor people had no other choice. Diseases would likely have increased too, especially during times of plague, as people traveled between towns. Overall, poverty was a significant threat to Elizabeth because it led to vagrancy and an increase in taxes which could have made her very unpopular, as well as an increase in crime and disease.
Coming up are some practice questions, followed by the sample answers and then the mark scheme. So you have question A, why was the middle way significant in dealing with the problem of religion during this period? Question B, why was the entry of Jesuit priests into England a significant threat to the religious settlement? Or C, why was Parliament significant for Elizabeth as Queen?
The middle way, via media, was significant in dealing with the problem of religion, as it was Elizabeth's attempt to resolve the religious tensions between the Catholics and Protestants. At the beginning of Elizabeth's reign, tensions were high between religions, and caused by constant change of faith. Henry was Catholic, Edward was Protestant, and Mary was Catholic. Furthermore, persecution under each monarch varied, with the infamous reputation of Bloody Mary known for the persecution of hundreds of Protestants. The middle way was significant as it set out a plan to keep both Catholics and Protestants happy, as a means of compromise. This was quite unusual, as previous monarchs simply persecuted those of opposing faiths. However, Elizabeth did not want to repeat the same mistakes as Mary by being too harsh on religious minorities. To do this, Elizabeth's attempt to establish Protestantism as the main religions while allowing Catholics to maintain some of their traditions to be satisfied. This was done through the Acts of Uniformity, which set out how people would pray, and the Act of Supremacy, which established Elizabeth as supreme governor. The middle way is also significant as it helped Elizabeth to maintain some support from the Catholics and Puritans, many of which were MPs. The middle way was significant especially in these times because it allowed the possibility that both religions could be practiced side by side. It also gained Elizabeth popularity to rise, considering up to that point she was the only monarch who worked for a compromise, which ultimately helped her to maintain support in a time of such high religious tension. The Jesuit priests were a significant threat to Elizabeth and her religious settlement as they challenged the establishment of her new church, and attempted to overthrow her by starting a Catholic rebellion. The religious settlement was Elizabeth's attempt to unite the Catholics and Protestants in her new church, but this was not very popular with most people. Religion was very important to everyone, and they did not want to change their beliefs just because their new queen was a Protestant. The Jesuits were a significant threat because not only were they attempting to convert Protestants to being Catholic, but they operated in secret and were difficult to arrest. One such arrest was that of Edmund Campion after he was caught attempting to convert Protestants. He was jailed in the Tower of London where he was tortured. The threat was so serious that in 1585 Elizabeth passed a law that ordered all priests to leave England or face execution. The determination of the Catholic priests was confirmed as a further 98 priests were arrested and executed for attempting to convert Protestants. This shows that Elizabeth was very concerned with the Jesuits and wanted to stop them from entering England. The Jesuits were a significant threat because they had the potential to destroy the hard work Elizabeth had done with her middle way, and to unite the country under one religion. There were many people who were unhappy with having a Protestant monarch, and if the Jesuits were able to gain their support, Elizabeth's position of queen would have been in jeopardy. One reason Parliament was significant in Elizabethan England was because of how often it was called. Elizabeth controlled Parliament as she could call and dismiss them. In total, Elizabeth only called Parliament 13 times, with them not sitting for 26 years straight at one point. They also challenged her occasionally on things such as freedom of speech and changes to the religious settlement, albeit unsuccessfully. This is significant because it shows Elizabeth had ultimate control over Parliament, though she has to work hard to keep them on her side. although she did need them for certain things, which also makes them significant. The main roles of Parliament include debating laws and increasing taxes, which was something only Parliament could do by law. This makes it significant as Elizabeth could not run her country without them, as she had very few other ways to raise money herself. A final way they are significant is in war. Many discussions were had regarding the various wars, particularly the Netherlands War and the Spanish Armada. Although ultimate power to declare war rested with Elizabeth, her Parliament was significant in advising her on it and supplying any extra money she would have needed. Overall, the Parliament was significant as they were necessary to run the country. As such, they held a lot of power, which could have led to messy conflicts between monarch and state.